Every fight to make next at 170 pounds. Of course, we already know Jack Della Maddalena likely going to defend his belt against Islam Makhachev either in October, Abu Dhabi, or maybe that Las Vegas UFC 320 card on October 4th. That's a possibility as well. I doubt the November pay-per-view. That's usually a John Jones card. That's what basically everybody is assuming. And then for them to wait all the way for December, I don't think so either. So I'm assuming October, Jack Della Maddalena versus Islam Makhachev as the first fight to make next. It's just a no-brainer at this point. The UFC wants it, Dana White wants it, Jack wants it, Islam wants it, the fans want it. That's the fight to make for the belt next. Then we do have number 1 ranked Belal Muhammad versus Kamaru Usman. I was thinking of what his ranking would be. Let's check. Kamaru's number 5. Kamaru is number 5, but we can't do Sean Brady versus Belal because they've already fought. Belal's already TKO'd Sean Brady. Shavkat versus Belal is a possibility. I'm not mad at doing Shavkat Rakhmonov versus Belal Muhammad. But I'd rather the Belal Usman grudge match. I would rather the Belal Usman grudge match. Number 1 versus number 5. If Usman beats Belal, right back to the title. That's 2 wins since losing his belt. Then he can do an Usman versus the winner of Jack Della and Islam Makhachev. I was blanking on his name right there. If Usman's maybe able to finish Belal or something like that, he might be able to hop over Sean Brady, who lost to Belal Muhammad. So there's a lot of things to definitely think about here. But I think this is just the fight to make. It's a grudge match. It's a fun fight as well because their wrestling is going to cancel out and they're going to box and make it a fun fight. So that's definitely the fight I would want next. Then we got number 2 versus number 3, Sean Brady versus Shavkat Rakhmonov. Again, Belal versus Usman. Shavkat probably not going to get a title shot. Sean Brady probably not going to get a title shot. They both need one more to solidify themselves as that guy in the welterweight division. Shavkat versus Sean Brady stylistically is really, really good. They can both cancel each other's wrestling and grappling out, just like Belal versus Usman, and Shavkat can go out and bang with Sean Brady, who we've seen get TKO'd by Belal, and Shavkat has had some holes in the grappling, got his back taken by Ian Gary, so Sean might be able to do the same thing as well. So there's some interesting aspects to the Shavkat-Sean Brady matchup. Number 2 versus number 3, basically Usman versus Belal, Shavkat versus Sean Brady, and whoever has the better performance. If Usman gets a finish here, if Sean Brady gets a finish here, that's who's getting the next title shot. It's not like, oh, the winner here for sure. Because if Sean gets a split decision over Shavkat and Usman dominates Belal, we're going to give Usman the title shot. So it basically depends on these 2 fights. Who has the more impressive performance between those 2 gets the winner of Islam versus Jack Della Maddalena. Then we got Leon versus Michael Morales. This is the way to get a new guy into that top 5. Leon is at number 4. Ian is at number 6. You could do Ian versus Leon, but I think Michael Morales deserves it a lot more. He just finished number 10, Gilbert Burns. He's undefeated in the UFC. Ian is only coming off 1 win, a decision, and a close one at that, to Carlos Prates in a fight he almost got TKO'd in. Michael just dominated Gilbert Burns, higher ranked, and he finished him. I think Michael deserves that shot a little bit more. So I do Michael Morales, Leon Edwards, UFC 320 pay-per-view, put it as the first fight of the main card, or put him on that San Antonio UFC no-shake card. I have no problem with either one of those. Then we got Ian Gary, Joaquin Buckley. If we've already got all these other fights booked, Buckley and Ian Gary are sitting right there. Ian, again, beat number 13, very, very close. Already lost to number 3, so we're not going to bump him above number 3. Leon, I already got him versus somebody else. Usman's coming off a win, going up. I say Ian versus Buckley. Winner gets another shot back in that top 5. Ian has lost his shot in the top 5. Buckley has lost his shot in the top 5. Both of them either coming off a loss, or Ian is just not coming off a very, very, clear, concise performance against Carlos Prates. So let's have them against each other, and they could, the winner gets the loser of Sean Brady, Shavkat Rakhmonov. I think that makes sense. I definitely think that makes sense. Or the loser of Jack Della versus Islam. There's things to do there. There is things to do. And that basically has it for the top 8 and 9 of the UFC welterweight division. And then we move on to Colby Covington. And I think he should go down in the rankings, obviously. Gilbert Burns should fight down in the rankings, so you can't do Gilbert and Colby. Jeff, I want him to fight down. Steven's already got a fight. Prates, I'm going to book him versus somebody else. Page going up to middleweight. So Kevin Holland kind of just makes a lot of sense there in that spot. Number 14 versus number 9. Rankings-wise makes sense as well. Trash talk-wise, this is a good up-and-coming fight. The build-up would be great. I love it. I really, really do. Gilbert Burns, he should fight down. We all know that. Jeff, I want to book him versus somebody else. Again, Thompson already booked. Page already booked. Kevin versus somebody else. I think Gilbert Burns should kind of fight an up-and-comer again, but not an up-and-comer that's going to go out there and absolutely destroy him. Let's look at his last few. Jack Della Maddalena, the champion. The number 2, Sean Brady. And then Michael Morales. He is on a murderous row right now. Belal Muhammad was before that. Masvidal and Neil Magny and these guys. Chimaev, Steve Wonderboy Thompson, Usman. He is on a murderous row in this UFC welterweight division. Let's give him a little bit of a step down. A little bit of a step down that he can go out there and reasonably win without having to worry about getting knocked out and chinned by Rinat Fakhretdinov. Like, legitimately, Rinat's not a striker. He's a grappler, and Gilbert's got better striking than Rinat. This is a winnable fight versus the guy that's undefeated in the UFC. Probably deserves a shot inside of the rankings anyway. Is not very well liked. I'm not the biggest fan of Rinat. I don't dislike him. He's got some good performances in the UFC. A lot of people don't like him after his win over Carlos Leal. Not a lot of people thought he won. But I still think this is a winnable fight for Gilbert. And it's a good test for Gilbert that he's not going to get knocked out in, but it's a close back and forth fight. I see being a 29-28 on a co-main event of a fight night, pay-per-view, prelim headliner type of thing. I think this is a winnable fight that Gilbert should definitely want to take next. Put this on the October Abu Dhabi pay-per-view, and I have no problems with this at all. I have no problems with this fight at all. So Gilbert Burns, Rinat Fakhretdinov makes a lot of sense in my opinion. Then we got the rebooking of Jeff versus Carlos, I was about to say Leal. Carlos Prates. Number 11, number 13. They were already going to do it anyway. Jeff's only coming off 1 win. 2 losses in a row. Then he beat Rafael dos Anjos by injury. He shouldn't really be fighting up in the rankings. He needs a win, a good, concise victory below him in the rankings. I think Prates is a very good test. This is a fight where Jeff's coming off 1 win. Before that, losing to Ian Gary and then somebody else as well. Shavkat Rakhmonov. Carlos only coming off 1 loss. Before that, a lot of knockout wins. Let's do this fight. Loser fights out of the rankings. Winner gets a shot inside of the top 10. Just a fun fight, and it makes sense rankings-wise. Steven versus Bonfim makes no sense. What are we doing? This is the first fight on this card of matchmaking that I have no control over. This is already booked. What are we doing? Stephen Thompson and Gabriel Bonfim? It's a horrible matchup. What are we doing? Why? Bonfim literally lost to Nicolas Dalby and then beat what? Who did he beat? Let's go to Steve Wonderboy Thompson. Let's see if I can press Bonfim through him. I can't. I gotta go through Tapology. Bonfim. Tapology. God damn. Bonfim is beaten. Ange Lusa and Chaos Williams. That's getting him a shot in the rankings. Really? Ange Lusa? Who just lost to Phil Rowe directly after that and was losing a Brian Battle? Ange Lusa, who should be 2-4 in the UFC? Alright. Okay, maybe the next win is good. Oh, who? Chaos Williams, who just lost to a debuting Andreas Gustafsson? 6-4, not a bad record. But come on, how is that deserving of getting you a shot in the rankings? Makes no sense. I can go down the list. We're gonna go through some fighters that I think are more deserving. Rinat Fakhretdinov's more deserving. There's gonna be more that I go throughout this list that are more deserving than Bonfim. What are we doing here? Randy Brown. I would have loved a Randy Brown, Stephen Thompson. That's what I probably would have done. I probably would have done Stephen Thompson, Randy Brown. But instead, I got to do Randy Brown versus number 16, barely outside of the rankings, Vicente Luque. Why? Why do I have to do that? Well, because they booked Bonfim. I don't know why. But we're going to do this rematch, Randy Brown versus Vicente Luque. Again, it's only because the UFC did this horribleness. Should have done Randy Brown versus Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, and Bonfim versus Luque. Why not? Bonfim versus Luque. They both darce a lot. They're both good grapplers. That's a good fight. Why couldn't we just switch these around? UFC, you piss me off sometimes. Then we go on. You already saw it. Carlos Leal, Muslim Salika. This one's already actually in the works, so I can't really do anything about it. But it's not a bad fight either way. Carlos Leal, he had that split decision. A really, really close fight to Renat Fakhretdinov. Muslim's coming off a solid win as well. I think winner here could definitely vie for a shot inside that top 15. For sure. They could probably get, loser of this fight. They could probably get loser of this fight. They can probably get loser of this fight. That type of thing. So I have no problem with this matchup. It's probably going to happen in UFC Abu Dhabi, July 26th. Not a bad fight. This is another one that's already booked. Chidi and Njokuani, Jake Matthews. Another one where if Chidi wins, he could definitely be looking at, again, one of the losers of those matchups. So I don't dislike that fight at all. Then we have two guys coming off knockout losses, Nicolas Dalby, Santiago Ponzinibbio. They're both gatekeepers. I think we put them together, see who's the better gatekeeper, and then the winner gatekeeps, and the loser really gatekeeps and fights someone way down the rankings. So this is just a fun gatekeeper fight between two guys that are going to need a little bit of time off for their chins to heal. So I love the fight. I think it's a banger in the welterweight division. Chiesa, I think he had a horrendous performance at Atlanta. Gustafsson had an amazing performance. UFC wants him on UFC Paris. I say you do Gustafsson, Michael Chiesa, prelim headliner of the UFC Paris UFC Fight Night. And I think this is a good way for Andreas Gustafsson to get right to the top. Boom. He wins this fight, and we got a rising star. We're going to catapult this dude. And if Chiesa wins, he's actually beating a good up-and-comer. And Chiesa might deserve a shot inside of the rankings. Maybe. Let's do this fight, see how legit Gustafsson is, and let's see if Chiesa can beat these up-and-comers. I think that's a banger. I think Andreas wins, actually. I love to see it. Then we have Joel Alvarez coming up to the UFC welterweight division. I want him versus a gatekeeper right off the bat to see where, he fits in the welterweight division. I don't want to feed him right to the welterweight top 15. There's a lot of other deserving guys. So I want to give him a guy coming off a loss, a gatekeeper, still a legit dude in Elizeu Zaleski. See if he can hang in the welterweight division. This is not a bad fight. Elizeu's a great striker, has good takedown defense. Joel's a good striker, has a good takedown defense. It's an amazing striking battle. Then we got Jacoby Smith taking on Nico Price. This is already booked. UFC 317. Not a bad fight at all. I think Jacoby wins and puts himself in line for the loser of Chidi and Jake. And then after that, a top 15. Jacoby's close to getting inside of that top 15. Nico's nowhere near, but this is a good fight. This one's already booked. I'm forgetting where it's booked for. 318, I think, or 319. One of the two. Gunnar Nelson, Neil Magny. Again, winner is the better gatekeeper. Loser is the worst gatekeeper. They're both still going to gatekeep after this. Yeah. If Neil wins, anybody that he loses to after that, give them a top 15 shot. I don't dislike this fight a lot. I would have done a Sam Patterson. I would have done a Sam Patterson versus Gunnar Nelson. I would have done Neil Magny versus a Jacoby Smith instead of Nico Price, but I digress. Daniel Rodriguez versus Mike Malott. I like this one because Daniel coming off a great win. Mike Mallett's coming off a great win. Both of them right outside of that top 15. Give Mike Malott a good name for his resume. D-Rod's a solid name. Put this on the UFC Vancouver card. If Mike's able to win this one, we can get him another shot. We can get him another shot in the rankings. Again, versus the loser of one of those other ones. If he's able to finish D-Rod. If not, maybe one more after that. But either way, it's another good test for Mike Malott. Daniel also lost to Neil Magny. Mike's only lost in the UFC is to Neil Magny. So I think this is a good competitive matchup in the UFC welterweight division. Oban, he's fighting this weekend, I believe, in Azerbaijan, taking on Seokhyun Ko. I think he wins the matchup. Maybe he loses it and this isn't going to work out, but I think he wins the matchup. And I think a good step up for Oban is Li Jingliang in China I think that's they're both good names. Oban is becoming a pretty well-known name through the MMA Guru and things like that. And obviously Li Jingliang is a good veteran, former ranked, former top 10 type of guy. One of the best Chinese fighters in UFC history. I think this is a good one for the main card of UFC. Is it Macau? Where is it? Shanghai. UFC Shanghai main card. I like this fight. Then we got, this is already booked for Nashville, I believe. Chris Curtis moving down to the welterweight division, taking on Max Griffin. I like the fight. I like it a lot. It's a good test for Chris to make his debut at welterweight. Again, if he wins, you know, we can probably honestly give him, I don't know. If he wins that, we can probably give him the winner of this if they don't get a top 15. Like if Liao wins a decision, probably do Liao versus Chris Curtis. That's a banger. If one of these wins a split decision, we probably do the winner versus Chris Curtis. The winner gets the top 15 type of thing. So a lot of good fights here, I believe. If you guys don't like any of my matchups, comment down below. But I like them. I feel like I did good here. Thank you guys for watching. See you in the next one.